Smock smelled like my dad, old coffee, WD-40, and paper that's been sitting in a house for 30 years. I wasn't even supposed to be there that night. My plan was simple. Go in, grab his tools, leave. That was the plan. But I sat down in his old recliner. Just for a second, just to catch my breath. And 4 hours happened. I went through every folder, every envelope, every receipt he'd saved, because my dad was the kind of man who kept every receipt. Somewhere around midnight, between a paid-off car loan from 2004 and a water bill from when I was in high school, I found a letter. Plain white envelope, no stamp, which meant it was hand-delivered, not mailed. The name on the front was my dad's. The return address was my business partner of 12 years, my best friend, my brother in everything but blood. I sat in my dead father's recliner at midnight, holding that letter. And I don't know what made me flip it over before I even opened it. Maybe instinct. Maybe 12 years of reading blueprints teaches you that the problem is always hiding in the corner. I flipped it over. And on the back of that envelope, in my father's handwriting, in the scratchy blue pen he always kept clipped to his shirt pocket, 3 words. Do not trust. I need you to stay with me on this, because what I'm about to tell you is not just a business story. It's not just a betrayal story. It's the story of how I found out that the man who sat at my father's bedside with me when he was dying had already written the paperwork to take everything my father helped me build. Welcome to Virtue Line, where quiet men finally stop being quiet. Let's go back to the beginning. My name is Ryan Carter. I'm 38 years old, structural engineer by training, business owner by accident, and apparently a fool for about 12 of the most important years of my life. But we'll get to that. Brad Simmons and I met sophomore year of college, University of Texas, engineering school. He was my roommate, and he was immediately everything I am not. I do math in my head for fun. Brad walks into a room and within 60 seconds, everyone in it knows his name and is laughing at something he said. We were a perfect team on paper. I built, he sold. I delivered, he closed. When we graduated, we talked about starting something. Every engineer with a good college friend talks about starting something. Most of them never actually do it. We did. Carter Simmons Construction Consulting started in my 1-bedroom apartment in Austin. Our first client was a guy my dad knew from church who needed a structural assessment on a property he was buying. Dad got us that job. He got us a few more after that. And then Brad got on the phone and did what Brad does. Year 3, a real office. Year 6, 8 employees. Year 10, bidding on city contracts. Brad and I were 50-50 on everything. That was the deal from day one. Equal partners, equal say, equal share. And I want you to understand what that meant to me. Not the money, not the office. I was proud that my best friend and I had built something real. Something that started in an apartment and turned into paychecks for 8 families. If you've ever built something from nothing with someone you completely trusted, drop that in the comments. Tell me what that felt like, because that feeling, that's exactly what they use against you. Now I need to tell you about my dad. Frank Carter, retired electrician, never complained about anything in his life. The kind of man who'd drive 2 hours to help a neighbor fix a fence and refuse lunch when they offered. When Brad and I needed seed money in year 1, my dad didn't hesitate. $80,000. His retirement savings. He didn't ask for equity. He didn't want a return. He said, and I can still hear him saying this, "Son, That money was going to sit there until I died anyway. At least this way, it does something. He passed away 19 months ago. Heart attack. Fast. The way he would have wanted. He left me the family house, paid off. $420,000 of South Austin real estate in a market that had lost its mind. Now here's where I need you to pay attention, because this is the part I would undo if I could. We had a big city contract coming up, biggest bid of our career, $8.2 million, municipal infrastructure, the kind of project that changes what your company is. We needed to post a performance bond to qualify for the bid. Brad came to me one evening. Nice restaurant, good bottle of wine. He said we should use my dad's inheritance as a capital injection to secure the bond, to show financial stability. He said, "Your dad believed in this company from day one, man. This is how we honor that." I want you to remember those words, because I certainly did. I transferred the $400,000 into the company account within the week, and I signed the updated partnership documents Brad's attorney had prepared. I signed them at that restaurant, over that good bottle of wine. I didn't read every line. I know. I'm a man who reviews structural blueprints for a living. I sign off on load calculations that keep buildings standing, and I didn't read every line of my own partnership agreement. Because it was Brad. And you don't read every word when it's Brad. That's what 12 years of trust gets you. A seat at the table and a blindfold. Before I get to the letter, I need to tell you about Sarah, because the letter only makes sense once you understand Sarah. Sarah and I had been together 6 years, married for 3. Sharp, organized, the kind of woman who sends thank you notes the same day. I genuinely thought we were solid. When my dad died, something shifted. Not between us right away, just in me. I got quiet. I got distant. I was grieving and handling the estate and trying to hold the company together while also just missing my dad. You know how that goes. If you've lost someone important, you know exactly how that goes. Sarah started spending more time out. Book club, girls' dinners, a yoga class she'd never mentioned before. I didn't think much of it. Actually, I was relieved. I didn't have much to give anyone those months, and I was glad she had somewhere to be. That's what nobody warns you about when you're grieving. You stop paying attention to the wrong things. 3 months after I signed those updated partnership documents, Sarah asked for a separation. She didn't have a big reason, not one she'd say out loud. She said we'd grown apart. She said she needed to figure out who she was. She said she cared about me, but wasn't sure she was still in love with me. The most polished breakup speech I've ever heard, and I've heard a few. She moved into a furnished apartment across town within 10 days, which means she found it before she told me. I didn't put that together at the time. I was too busy surviving. My son Tyler was 16 that summer. He's mine from a relationship before Sarah. He lives with his mom in Dallas most of the year, but he was with me that summer. Tyler is the kind of kid who doesn't say much. He watches, he processes, and then 6 weeks later he says one sentence that floors you. That summer, he watched his stepmom pack boxes. He watched me eat cereal for dinner 3 nights in a row. He watched me go to work every morning like nothing was wrong. Because what else do you do? One evening, about 2 weeks after Sarah left, Tyler sat down across from me at the kitchen table, and he said, "Dad, I need to show you something." I'm going to come back to that, because it matters more than almost anything else in this story. But first, the letter. My dad's house. 19 months after he passed, I finally had myself together enough to go through his things. I'd been paying the property taxes, keeping the utilities on, just wasn't ready. The night I found the letter, I wasn't even planning to stay long, just grabbing some of his tools I wanted to keep. And then I sat down in the recliner, and 4 hours happened. The letter was typed, business formal, dated 3 years ago. 3 years ago, when my dad was alive, when Brad and I were in year 9. A good year, a strong year. And this letter, from my business partner to my father, said that he was worried about me, that I had been showing signs of, and I'm going to quote this, instability and poor financial judgment, that I had become, quote, increasingly difficult to work with, that for the long-term health of the company, Brad was exploring options to, quote, restructure the partnership, and he wanted my father's support as a stakeholder in that process. There was a signature line at the bottom for my dad to sign, acknowledging he understood and supported the restructuring. My father never signed it. He kept it, and on the back, in that scratchy blue pen, "Do not trust." My dad knew. 3 years before he died, he got that letter, read it, wrote 3 words on the back, and never told me. I want to sit with that for a second, because it did something to me I'm still not completely through. My dad didn't tell me because he didn't want to hurt me, or because he figured he'd handled it by not signing, or because he thought Brad would eventually show his hand on his own. Whatever the reason, my father spent the last 3 years of his life knowing something about the man I called my best friend, and he kept it in a box. And the only reason I found it is because I sat down in his recliner instead of going home. If you've ever had a parent protect you from something they probably should have told you, let me know in the comments, because I'm still figuring out how to feel about it. But here's what I know. The night I found that letter, something in me went very still. Not angry, not panicked. Clear. The way things go clear when the blueprint finally tells you where the problem is. I put the letter in my jacket pocket. I turned off my dad's lights. I drove home, and I thought about what Brad would do if he knew I had it. And I decided he wasn't going to know. Not yet. I'm a structural engineer. I solve problems by looking at what's holding things up and what isn't. Load distribution, stress points, weak joints. That's how I approached this. I went back to basics, the company finances. Brad handled the business side day to day. That was our deal from the start. Invoicing, accounts, payroll, all him. I reviewed quarterly reports. I want you to hear that. I reviewed reports, not the actual accounts, the reports. There is a very big difference. I called Maya Chen the next morning, business attorney. I'd worked with her on a client contract dispute 2 years before. Sharp doesn't cover it. I told her I needed to talk off the record first. She said, "Ryan, when someone says off the record first, I already know it's going to be interesting." I told her about the letter. I told her about the partnership document I'd signed at the restaurant. Long silence on her end. Then, "Tell me exactly what you signed." I didn't have the exact language memorized, so she pulled the filed version, because partnership amendments get filed, public record. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she said one sentence. "Ryan, your signature is on a document that converts you from a 50-50 equity partner to a 30% minority shareholder, contingent on a performance review clause that Brad Simmons controls." I said, "That's not what he told me I was signing." She said, "I know." That restaurant, that wine, that speech about honoring my father. I had signed away 20% of my own company over a dinner. Maya and I spent the next 4 days inside the actual accounts. She had access rights through my existing stake. And here is where it gets very ugly. There was a company, Simmons Strategic Solutions, filed in Delaware, 18 months ago. Sole owner, Bradford Simmons. In 22 months of operation, Carter Simmons Construction Consulting had paid Simmons Strategic Solutions $340,000 in consulting fees. Brad had been billing our company, his own company, for consulting that he was doing for himself. You know what we call that in construction? A load-bearing lie. The whole structure sits on it. Pull it out, everything collapses. But here's what I did not do. I did not call Brad. I did not go into the office and flip a table. I didn't change any passwords, any accounts, anything. Because Maya said what I think every good attorney says when someone is this angry and this right. Do nothing that looks like you know something yet. So I went to work every morning. I sat across from Brad at our Friday partner lunches. I laughed at his stories. I asked about his wife Donna and their kids. And every evening I came home and worked with Maya on what we were building. I need to tell you about Donna Simmons, because she matters more than you realize right now. Donna is one of those genuinely good people who makes you question everyone else. She volunteers. She remembers birthdays. She brought food to my house twice after my dad passed. She and Brad had been married 14 years. 2 kids. A house they built together out in the hill country. I didn't know what she knew, and I wasn't going to assume anything, but I kept a note in my head about Donna. Now, here's where Tyler comes back in. Because he'd said, "Dad, I need to show you something," and I'd held that off. I was in survivor mode and didn't want to pull my kid into anything. But about 2 weeks into my quiet investigation, Tyler sat down at the kitchen table again. This time, he didn't ask. He just put his phone on the table and slid it toward me. It was a photo of a laptop screen. He'd been at Brad's house a few months back for a 4th of July thing. Brad's kids were Tyler's age. They all hung out. At some point, Tyler went to use the computer in Brad's home office. The screen was already open. Tyler said, and I'm going to quote my 16-year-old son, "I didn't know what it was, but I took a picture because it had your name on it and it looked important. And then Grandpa died, and then Sarah left, and I didn't know when to show you, Dad." My kid sat on evidence for months because he was trying to protect his grieving father from more hurt. I looked at the photo. It was a draft email from Brad to someone I didn't recognize, a real estate attorney based on the signature. The email outlined a buyout plan for Ryan Carter's remaining stake in Carter Simmons Construction Consulting, dated 5 weeks after my dad died. 5 weeks. He was drafting a plan to push me out while I was still sorting my father's estate. I looked at Tyler. He said, "Is it bad?" I said, "Yeah, buddy, but you did exactly the right thing." He nodded. And then this 16-year-old kid, who doesn't say much, said one more thing. "Dad, there was another browser tab open. I didn't take a picture of it. I didn't understand what I was seeing, but I saw Sarah's name in an email thread. I'm going to be completely honest with you. That was the moment it stopped being a business story. Maya found it before I even asked her to look. Because when you're already inside someone's financials, patterns show up. Brad had been paying for an apartment, monthly, through a third account we hadn't found yet. The apartment was 6 blocks from the furnished place across town Sarah had moved into. It was a building Brad owned a unit in, personally. Sarah wasn't renting an apartment. Sarah was living in Brad's apartment. I want to tell you what I did when Maya told me that. I poured a glass of water. I sat down on my back porch, and I thought about every Friday partner lunch for the past year. Every, "How's Sarah, man?" with that little smile. Every, "You guys should really take a vacation, Ryan. You work too hard." I thought about the yoga class Sarah had never mentioned before. I thought about Donna, who brought food to my house after her husband had already started all of this. I'm not going to pretend the affair hurt less than the money. It didn't. But here's what I know about myself. When something hits me that hard, I don't blow up. I get quiet. I get precise. And I had gotten very, very precise. Maya and I had 3 tracks now. Track 1, the partnership fraud. Track 2, the shell company theft. Track 3, whatever came with Sarah in the divorce proceedings. But there was a 4th thing, and this one I hadn't told Maya yet, because this 4th thing was mine. About 2 years ago, we were bidding on a commercial project, and I was paranoid about a competitor getting access to my engineering methodology, my calculation models, the proprietary structural approach I'd built over 15 years of work. So I quietly registered the core technical design framework under my own name, personal IP, not the company's, mine. It was a small thing at the time. I didn't even mention it to Brad. It just felt like the right thing to do. Here's why that matters right now. The $8.2 million city contract that Brad had invested my father's $400,000 to pursue, the technical specification they submitted for that bid, was built entirely on my IP. Brad had used my father's money to chase a contract he was planning to lock down before pushing me out, a contract that without my engineering license and my registered IP was worth exactly nothing to anyone. He didn't know about the registration. He'd never asked, because he thought he already knew everything that was mine. He was wrong. If you've ever had something in your back pocket that nobody knew about at exactly the right moment, tell me in the comments. Because that registration was 12-year-old me being paranoid for no reason, until it was the exact reason. Maya and I set a date. She called it the close. I called it Tuesday. Brad and I had a standing partner meeting every Tuesday morning, 8 o'clock, conference room. Coffee from the place across the street. 12 years of Tuesdays. This Tuesday was different. Maya was parked outside in her car. Tyler had texted me that morning. "You good, Dad?" I texted back, "Getting there." I got to the office first, which I never do. Brad always beats me in. But that morning, I was there at 7:45, sitting in the conference room, when he walked through the door. He did what he always does. Big smile, big energy. "You're early. What's the occasion?" I said, "I found something in my dad's house." He sat down. The smile adjusted slightly. Not gone, recalibrated. "Oh yeah? What did you find?" I put the letter on the table. I watched his face. A man who makes his living reading rooms read the room and came up empty for the first time in 12 years. He picked up the letter. He read it, set it down. And then he did what salespeople do when the demo goes sideways. He pivoted. "Ryan, man, that was 3 years ago. That was a hard time. You know how things get stressful and you make decisions you don't follow through on?" He spread his hands. "I never sent that. I never said it." "He delivered it," I said. "What?" "My father got that letter, Brad. He never signed it. He kept it in a box. And on the back, he wrote 3 words. I flipped the envelope over. The blue handwriting. Brad looked at it, and for 1 second, just one, I saw something real in him. Not remorse, something closer to respect, the way a poker player looks when someone finally shows a better hand. Let me explain the partnership document, he started. You don't need to, I said. I opened my laptop, turned it toward him. Simmons Strategic Solutions, $340,000 in consulting fees paid from our joint operating account. The buyout draft email, the one Tyler had photographed. And then one more thing. The IP registration certificate. My name, my framework, my property. The city contract, I said. Whose design is the technical spec based on, Brad? Silence. The city contract is built on my proprietary engineering framework, which I registered under my name, personally, not the company's. Without my license and my IP, that contract cannot close. They wrote it into the qualification requirements. Silence. Here's the thing about Brad. He's the best reader of rooms I've ever seen. So he knew. He knew before I finished the sentence. He leaned back in his chair, put his hands behind his head, and laughed. Not a real laugh, the kind that's buying time. Okay, he said. What do you want? I want the company restructured back to 50-50, with a court-verified accounting of every shell company transfer. I want the $400,000 repaid to my capital account, and I want the city contract proceeds adjusted by the amount you fraudulently reclassified your interest. He nodded slowly, processing. And if I don't? Then Maya Chen files Monday morning, which flags the city contract during a fraud investigation, which means we probably lose the bid entirely, which means neither of us sees $8 million. He sat very still. I sat very still back. 12 years of knowing someone gives you one thing above everything else. You know exactly when they're about to fold. And then his phone rang. He glanced at the screen. His wife, Donna. He declined it. It rang again immediately. He frowned, declined again. A text came through. He looked at it, and whatever color was left in his face went somewhere else. He stood up, started to say something, stopped. He picked up his phone, looked at me, and in 12 years, I had never seen that look on Brad Simmons. He said, "She knows." Not to me, just out loud, to the room. She knows. He walked out of that conference room. I found out later, Donna had found the apartment lease in a folder he'd left at home, the lease with Sarah's name on it. She'd called her own attorney at 7 that morning. She'd texted Brad during our meeting. 2 words. I know everything. Here's the accounting. You stayed with me this long. You deserve the full picture. Brad signed the corrected partnership documents 8 days later, not because he wanted to, because Maya had 3 separate filings ready, and he knew it. The shell company transfers were repaid in full, $340,000, back where it belonged. The city contract closed 6 months later, my engineering license on the final paperwork, my IP credited in the project specification. Biggest job of my career. Brad left the partnership voluntarily 14 months after that Tuesday. He sold his stake back to me at fair market value, which by then was significantly less than it would have been if he hadn't spent 2 years burning the foundation from the inside. Carter Simmons Construction Consulting is now Carter Engineering Solutions. My name on the door. No other name, just mine. Sarah and I divorced. She confirmed the relationship with Brad in the proceedings. I'm not going to tell you I handled that part perfectly. I didn't. There were months where I had to actively choose to get out of bed. And if you're in that kind of season right now, I need you to hear me. It gets cleaner. Not easier at first, just cleaner. The mess gets smaller. The clarity gets bigger. And one day you go an entire Tuesday without thinking about it. Donna filed for divorce, got the Hill Country house, the one they built together, an outcome I think she earned. She texted me once, just once, after everything was settled. She said, "I'm sorry for what they did to you." I said, "I'm sorry for what they did to you." That was it. That's the part that stays with you, the collateral, the people who got hurt by something they had nothing to do with. And Tyler, my kid, who sat on a photograph for months trying to protect his grieving father. We drove out to a hill outside the city a few months after everything settled, just the two of us, no plan. He said, "Dad, do you think Grandpa knew what was going to happen with Brad?" I thought about it for a long time. I think my dad knew something was off. I think that letter scared him enough to write 3 words on the back. I think he didn't know the scope of it. And I think he put it in a box because he didn't know what else to do with something that big. Tyler was quiet for a second. Then he said, "He left it where you'd find it." He said it like it was simple, the way 16-year-olds say things that are simple and completely true at the same time. I sat on that hill thinking about my dad in his recliner, keeping that letter for 3 years. And I think Tyler's right. I think my dad left it exactly where I'd find it. When I was ready. Grounded, honest, not preaching, just real. I spent 12 years believing that loyalty was enough to hold something together. That if you put in the work and trusted the right people, the structure would hold. I was an engineer who forgot the first rule of engineering: inspect the joints. Every foundation needs to be checked, no matter how solid it looked when you built it, no matter how much you trusted the person who helped you pour it. My dad's 3 words saved the company. His 3 words saved 12 employees' jobs. His 3 words were the blueprint I needed. I just had to find them. That's my story. 1 letter in a box, 1 Tuesday morning, and a name that finally meant something on its own. If someone in your life is using your trust as their personal blueprint, this is your sign to inspect the structure. Share this with anyone who ever built something with someone they completely trusted. Drop a comment. Tell me what you would have done in that Tuesday meeting. Like this video if you stayed to the end, and subscribe to Virtue Line, because quiet men, we're done being quiet. See you in the next one.